Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. I'm Sarah Vantine here today with Tom Kline of Better Vantage Point. Tom, we have a really exciting subject for our dealers and our audience that it's going to be listening today.
We certainly do. Thanks for having us all, Sarah. Welcome, everyone, to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. I'm Tom Kline from Better Vantage Point, where we help dealers navigate the world of governance, risk, and compliance. And today, we're pulling back the curtain on something most people in the dealership world would rarely get to hear directly, which is what your in-house attorneys are seeing, thinking about, or maybe wrestling with. So in fixed ops, as everyone knows, the shop moves fast. Advisors are busy. Customers are impatient. And the pressure to continually produce is constant. But behind all that, there are patterns that we need to think about: compliance patterns, behavioral patterns, documentation patterns that will either protect the store or expose it. That's why I've invited two outstanding in-house attorneys, Bentley Durant and Serena Madar. They're on the front lines of governance inside large automotive groups, and so they see trends actually before most people see them. They see what's wrong, what's breaking, and where dealers are unintentionally stepping into the risk. So let's get right to it. I'd like each of you to introduce yourselves. Bentley, you first. Give us 30 seconds or so on where you are and how you got there.
I'm Bentley Durant. I'm the third generation auto dealer of the classic family of dealerships, and with 18 stores in Texas, Oklahoma, and Florida. And I started out like any other dealer kid. I tried to run away. Found law school as a great place to go where my family wouldn't be too upset with me if I went there. And right after about 2008, something odd was happening in the car business, and I got sucked right back into the car business to do some wonderful work with my family.
Okay, I understand the feeling. As you know, I'm
Yes.
a third generation guy too. But it's like the Godfather said, right? They just keep sucking you back in.
Yes.
Okay, Serena, welcome.
Hi, I'm Serena Madar. I'm the General Counsel and Chief Compliance Officer for the New Car family of auto dealerships. We have, I believe, 30 stores across 26 locations in 6 different states. And I got here by having DCD as a client of mine, and then they asked me to come in-house.
Very good. Very good. Serena, let's start with you. In your role as an in-house attorney, what recent compliance or risk trends have surprised you the most, and how are you helping your teams navigate it?
Well, right now, my biggest risk is my dog barking in the background, so I'm hoping she'll settle down for a minute. The biggest risk that I see in dealerships right now, well, one of the things that I'm particularly concerned about is the use of AI through some of our vendors in connecting with customers through our service department, be it scheduling or sales pitches, if you will.
Okay. And what specific risk, Serena, from AI are you concerned most?
So we want to make sure that we have proper disclosures with anytime we're using AI, if it's representing a person or a voice, that our customers know that they're interacting with AI and not a real person. So I'm very cautious about how those messages are conveyed so that our customers know you're not actually talking to a real person. This is simulated through AI. So that's one of the things that I'm most concerned about, that all of our stores, all of our marketing people who interact with these vendors are keeping me in the loop so that I can make sure that the vendors know what disclosures we require and are looking for.
Okay. Bentley, I'm going to ask you the same question, but before I do, any thoughts, any follow-on thoughts to what Serena's talking about?
Oh, thank you. Yes, yes. The AI coming into the dealership has certainly been a challenge because we've forgotten some of this stuff that we should know. Like, you do not use an auto dialer to contact a customer. But then we forgot that AI has all the capabilities of an auto dealer. It's not a human. It's kind of falling between the lines. So when we're using AI to keep in communication with customers, we got to be aware, is this an auto dialer? Are we talking about TCPA violation just because we're having this piece of software talk to our customers in lieu of actual agents? And I've seen some challenges in that area, some that I'm a little bit frightened of. And we just got to keep aware that just because we got a new playbook with AI, it doesn't mean the old rules, we don't have any relief from the old rules. So we got to keep in compliance with the same old that we've had for the last 10, 20, 30 years while bringing in this new technology.
Take a minute and share with our audience TCPA, what it is, what the penalties are, so that we make sure they're keeping up with lawyer speak.
Well, I can't quote it by heart, unfortunately, but the Telephone Consumer Privacy Act is just something that the government's been doing for many years to cut down on the amount of spam calls we're all doing. And of course, we all know it's a complete failure. We're still getting all the spam calls that we've always gotten, but the regulations are out there, and they have various serious consequences. Off the top of my head, I think the penalty can be $1,000 per phone call. So, please, Serena.
$5,000 per call.
Right, and this is texts also, right, Serena and Bentley?
Yes, it's solicitations that are not consented to.
Correct. I just want to make sure everyone understands that it is solicitation. It's not just spam calls. So go ahead, Bentley. I interrupted.
There are legal ways to have these conversations, and these conversations are being had all the time. I'm getting automated texts from my kid's school when there's some sort of special alert, maybe a safety issue or something like that. I get automated texts from my pharmacy when my prescriptions are filled, and all these organizations had to come to grips. When they were set up their automated text, are they getting the right authorizations for it? Is it written consent? Is it express? All these hurdles. And so if you're looking at an AI to do something like this in your organization, that's definitely the point where you reach out to your in-house counsel or your outside counsel, whatever you're set up with, and have that conversation first. Don't have the conversation with your sales associate, please. The person selling you the AI is probably not prepared to have that conversation.
I think that's great. I think that's great counsel, even though you're not everyone's attorney, Bentley. So I'll give you the disclaimer before you even have to say it. How's that?
Oh, yes.
There you go. And do you have an answer for this question in addition, or you want me to move on to the next question?
Oh, yeah. Yes. Social media and politics. I'm not going to talk about politics, but I find my employees are engaging in different type of political conversation than they had in the last 10 years, and they're bringing it to the workplace, and they're trying new ideas on to see how they fit, maybe in their water cooler conversations. And we don't have to get too specific about it, but a lot of these conversations happening on social media are a little bit more extreme than they've been in the last 10 years. And a lot of it is just not workplace appropriate. So we're having to go back to our employees and say, hey, that's a social media conversation, not a workplace conversation. You have that conversation outside of the dealership. You have that conversation, in your political arenas, but not in your work arena. And having to differentiate that and educate, these younger, newer employees who are just engaging in this political discourse has certainly been a challenge for us.
And just one more question, then Serena, I'm going to move on to you on social media and hear from you about that. But do you ask your employees to post anything like on Facebook that says this isn't the the opinion of my employer, or do you kind of stay out of that completely?
Is that directed to me? I'm sorry.
So I think Bentley, was that I was directing that to you.
Sorry. Yes. We haven't engaged at that level. We kind of allow our sales associates to be independent agents, but we do watch what they say, and we remind them occasionally in our meetings, say, hey, if you're representing yourself, you're your own business, you need to be talking like any other business would. And we coach them on what the social media boundaries for a business are, and we let them know. Look, if you want to talk politics in your social media, be aware that you may lose customers over it. Now, we've got other employees who will happily take those customers from you with the opposite perspective.
Right. Right. Good point. Serena, what are your thoughts on politics and social media and how you're handling that right now?
So we have actually asked our employees not to talk about politics in the workplace, and that way we figure it's going to eliminate a lot of these issues. We don't tell our employees what to put on social media. Obviously, if they're accessing our social media for any of our dealerships pages, the same rules apply. Those are not for political discourse. So we're not having, as far as I can tell, we're not having any issues with that. But we did make it clear politics doesn't belong in the workplace. You just don't know what people think, and just don't talk about it.
Okay. All right. Next question is for Bentley. Where do you see the biggest blind spots in fixed ops from a legal or regulatory standpoint? And what simple steps have made the biggest difference in reducing those risks?
Well, in fixed ops, we're on a bit of a reprieve. The alphabet soup of agencies that oversee and regulate us, whether it's OSHA, EPA, many of those agencies are the scrutiny has reduced. And my biggest concern is that we can't reduce our practices right here. We can't take this moment of respite when we're not being intensely looked at, because enforcement is still out there, even though funding may not be there in these agencies, even though the number of people to come in and inspect your store may be reduced right now. This is the time to get on top of it, not behind the curve, because before you know it, something's going to change and that funding will come back, or those agencies will step back into a more aggressive stance, and your store will be open for plunder, as it
Right.
were, when they come in and start seeing violations that you haven't really been attentive to. So this is the time to get ahead of the curve, not allow yourself to sit back and fall behind the curve just because we're seeing a little bit less enforcement.
Yeah, interestingly, I read an article, I believe it was in the Wall Street Journal in the last 2 weeks, that said that the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, is now seeing their mission a little differently and a little more aggressively, because the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau has basically been taken out of the loop. So they are publicly saying that they're going to be more aggressive in their enforcement. Serena, where do you see the biggest blind spots in fixed ops from a legal or regulatory standpoint, and what steps have made the biggest difference in reducing those risks?
I mean, I don't know if it's a blind spot. I think that the biggest risk we face is paperwork, and keeping all of our paperwork completed and up to date and signed and stored properly. So one of the things that we do in our stores is that we have a checklist for every deal. And I'm actually in the process of creating a universal checklist, because we do have stores in so many different states. And, it does vary somewhat by the manufacturer, but there are certain things that need to be in every deal. So we make sure that those things are being signed properly. We make sure that we get consents from customers on service, especially if it's an additional service to something that they came in for. So to me, it's all about making sure that you complete your paperwork. And we also are scanning all of our documents so that we're not storing them in paper somewhere at some offsite facility that could be compromised by human
Everyone.
error or natural disaster.
Everyone.
So, to make them more easily accessible, even things with wet signatures, everything's being scanned and stored that way.
Okay, good. Yes, we all know the perils of paper, and I, of course, just like you guys, have had the dubious honor of being in charge of the warehouse, um, which is the worst. um, Bentley, when you walk into a store, what's one thing that you observe that tells you instantly whether that particular store takes compliance seriously?
As a dealer and a general counsel, I maybe have a unique view here because I'm both a mix of operations and legal compliance in that aspect. But when I drive into any one of my partner stores, the first thing I notice is their inventory lines. I notice their merchandising. Are they straight? Are they parked in alignment? Are the colors diverse? Questions like that tell me exactly how that management team is executing the mission, their primary mission of inventory display. From just that one fact, if I can see that they're doing a poor mission at that, I know that once I get deeper in, compliance is going to be at risk because they don't even have enough time to do their primary job, let alone the secondary and often tertiary job of compliance. So then I walk into the showroom. If there's papers out on the desk, oh gosh, I know, big red flags. Go back into the shop because we're talking fixed ops. I mean, shop basics. Every tech wants a microwave at their station and they can't have it. I mean, these are the simple things and they're so easy to spot. Any shop manager can walk right into their shop right now and find a dozen of them. And they may even have some agency coming in and spotting them for the same dozen infractions weekly.
And
But let me tell you, if you're not managing your primary job, you're not managing the job of compliance. A good manager can manage both. A good management team is looking at all aspects, and they're not so preoccupied, not so overwhelmed just on the initial merchandising side and the initial sales focus that they miss all the other stuff going on.
great answer. I mean, I've been to stores where I see the lot attendant with a string on the front line, right? I've seen that, and then I've seen what you just described.
Oh,
So
I used to be that lot attendant, and
yeah,
we laser line those up with strings and whatever.
that's it. That's it. Okay, Serena, when you walk into a store, what do you see?
He took part of my answer. I was going to say a clean desk because if I see papers all over the desk, I know this we're going to have a problem in my service department and on the sales floor.
Okay, I get this question a lot, which is on a service RO, is the customer information, their address, their phone number, and their email address, is that considered PII? And so what do you recommend on the service and the fixed ops side? How do you fix that kind of problem?
Well, you can't have papers just laying around on your desk for a deal that you're not working on. You've got to have it put away. You've got to have them locked. You've got to have file folders so that when another customer comes by, I mean, at least in many of our stores here in Massachusetts, we've got the service bay, right, where people drive in and there's 4 or 5 sort of kiosks, if you will, set up where the customer interacts with our service advisors. So those desks have to be clean. And when you're done on that customer, you've got to put it all away so that the next customer coming up doesn't get a glance at it.
Okay, Bentley,
That's
thoughts
mostly
about
how
that?
we deal with it.
Yeah.
You want to go paperless, but many of the OEMs I work with for warranty, they want to see paper. They want to see signatures. They want to see authorizations. They want to see all that. So a paperless system in the shop is almost impossible under certain OEM paradigms. So unfortunately, the paper has to be there, but keeping it away, keeping it out of customer sight is a simple process.
Yeah.
It just
So I
often
would.
we greet customers at the door. We don't invite them back to the desk where they can see that material because that's probably the simplest way. Greet your customers on the drive for once. That's
How about
best
that?
practice, but it actually works.
Yeah. So one of the things I've been successful with on this point is the DMS providers can block out literally on the RO the address, the phone number, and the email address, so it's just black. And so that is another way that the internal copy that you have, but the one can still have all the address and whatnot on it, but the actual physical copy is blacked out. That's something to consider also. What kind of issues are most likely to escalate to your desk from fixed ops, and what patterns are you seeing across stores that dealers should be aware of? Serena?
Um, I, I'm fortunate to not have too many of these happen, but some of the things that escalate to me are customers will say, I didn't give approval for that repair. Came in for an oil change and I didn't give approval to have all these other things done. We normally have well documented consents from customers, either through our DMS or in paperwork. Those sometimes can escalate to me. Sometimes I'll see things where customers complain about not being able to get repairs done because a part's on back order, which, that's not a dealership. I mean, it is a dealership issue, but it's not a something that we can control. So having to explain that to customers can sometimes be an issue. Sometimes customers come in and complain about something that gets resolved, and then it shows up again a few months later. Now they're out of warranty. So those things escalate to me. Um, those are probably the top things in fixed ops.
Bentley, your thoughts on that?
Last year was horrible with the traffic accidents. Um, and, every vehicle that comes in just about, with some serious repair, well, we're going to have to put it on the road and test it out. And I understand that the techs have to be a little bit distracted. They're listening for that sound, that vibration. They're trying to diagnose the car while driving. So we're focusing on defensive driving. We're focusing on discussing it in shop safety meetings, taking routes that take all right turns. But last year was a disappointment. I made it 2 days in the year before my first rear end collision, and it was our fault. And it was even we hit a former employee of ours, believe it or not. We got to do better from a safety perspective. That's probably the hardest area, but we just got to keep in front of our technicians who are doing these road test drives and remind them safety first, job second.
Yeah. And one of the things that's helped in some of the dealerships that I've been at is after they have an accident, you have them take a defensive driving class, right? And they have to get a certificate. And there's some that you can get online have progressive defensive driving classes and issues and that kind of thing. That tends to help. As you said, right-hand turns definitely helps. Staying within 2 miles of the dealership and under 45 miles an hour to the extent that you can helps. All these things are very good. Next, from your perspective, we'll start with Serena. From your perspective, what makes the partnership between legal and operations work well, and then what breaks it as well?
So I would say that all of my general managers or our general managers are my partners, and they understand that compliance is very, very important, and that they're not going to make money unless the store and the owners are making money, and they have to protect us on all the compliance fronts. So they're very good about keeping their staff in line and up to date on what's going on and what the major risks are.
Okay, Bentley?
I oversee some very high performance stores, and I've seen them perform at times where compliance wasn't their chief objective. But that was always the start of the fall. That wasn't when they were on the upswing. That was the start of the fall. And when over the years, when I look back, that's when their compliance got off kilter. That's when they needed me more than ever. And that's when I had to enter and engage with them and start having more difficult conversations with their management team. And in retrospective, I'm looking at this idea that, you got compliance and you got performance. The two aren't mutually exclusive at all. In fact, they really seem to go together, because when I see us on the upswing, we're not only upswinging on our performance, on our sales, on hitting our targets, but we're a little bit stricter. We're a little bit smarter. We're a little bit more educated, and we're tackling that compliance issue, and it's not even a problem.
Great. I love to hear that. Bentley, next question. General managers often see compliance as something that slows things down. When you get that occasional general manager who doesn't view compliance the way you want to, how do you help them view compliance as a tool that protects profitability?
well, it's a problem in the car business that we train our salesmen, we train our technicians, we might even train our service advisors, but we're not training our leadership.
Mm-hmm.
It starts with training our leadership, because if they think they're being slowed down, but because of compliance, it's because they don't have the leadership skills to get their employees to do what they're supposed to do from the start. They're fighting getting their employees to do basic processes, you know, walk arounds for every vehicle that come in, things like that. On the sales side, let's say, you know, do a trade walk around, or actually do the steps of the sale. If they can't get their employees to perform at that level, it's because they lack the skills, which we often haven't taught them. We often haven't spent the time or sent the employee to a leadership course so that they can sharpen up and figure out how to do these basic things. And as a result of them focusing completely on their performance objectives, not having the skill to achieve those, they're leaving their compliance objectives completely in the dust and forgetting about them. Just not enough hours in the day when you don't have the skill to start.
I was at a store last week, and this question came up, and the answer was by the dealer. He said, "I march them outside, show them whose name's on the sign, and tell them what they need to do." Serena, what are your thoughts here?
If I encounter that, I have a heart to heart with the general manager about what our goal is. We are one team. We have one mission, and that is to sell cars and be upstanding citizens in the community and treat our customers properly with transparency and honesty. So it's not usually a problem in my stores because they understand the big picture.
Okay. Serena, is it about time for our lightning round here? Let me start. Sarah, is it time for our lightning round?
Oh yes, Tom. I think we are ready to go ahead and get this lightning round started. So
Okay.
with that, let's get our final question. And Tom, 30 seconds from our panelists today. I can't wait to hear what you're going to ask.
I can't wait to hear what I'm going to ask you either. In my book, Tuck the Octopus, we talk about simplifying the complex, taking all the tentacles of dealership risk and compliance and pulling them together in something that's manageable. So if you could give one piece of short, simple, and practical advice that every dealership should take and do this week to reduce the risk in fixed ops, what would that be? And let's start with Serena.
I think I would come back to paperwork. Make sure your paperwork is done properly. You've dotted your I's and crossed your T's. You've got all the signatures that you need. You've scanned them in. You're not having issues with registry, and you are not having issues with customer consent. Get your paperwork in order and keep your desk neat.
Okay, there you go. Bentley?
It starts by just taking that walk back into the shop. And if you're a GM running a store or you're a service manager, it doesn't matter. Take your old set of eyes off, the one that sees that shop every day, put it on a new set of eyes, a customer set of eyes, and walk through it. Start thinking about what you see. Think about what your customer would see if they're walking through it. And that's the start. If your customer would be shocked, you should be shocked too. You're
Right.
probably out of compliance in some areas, and you're probably losing some profit in some areas too. I did this once in one of my shops, and guess what's up on the lifts? Not my customer cars. I had 5 hobby cars up on the lifts. Oh my goodness, what business am I in?
Right.
It's the
Supplying
DIY shop.
supplying the technicians with room and board.
Yep.
and I'll just throw in into the mix extension cords in the shop, unlabeled bottles in the shop, razor blades laying around. Right, just these are just basic ones that if nobody's enforcing it, and then what to do with empty aerosol, cans, and making sure you're doing all your recycling. So. Thank you both so much for being here. Sarah, thank you for having us. It's always great to be here on the Fixed Ops Roundtable. And final words, Sarah.
Well, Tom, you covered a lot of incredible information with our panelists today. Lots of great insights for our dealers and our audience to take home with them. If you want to learn more about compliance and staying out of trouble in fixed operations, no better person than Tom Kline of Better Vantage Point. His information is in the ticker below, bettervantagepoint.com, as well as his phone number. Reach out today for more information. And with that, everyone stay tuned. We've got more exciting things coming up at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.